My family was in banking and farming and lumber, and I'm an only child, only grandchild. So going to school, my grandfather said, "You've got to come back and work for the family," because I have no relatives. I don't even have a cousin, which is really pretty much unheard of. So I went to college. My grandmother secretly paid for me to go to design school out of her grocery money because she knew I was creative at heart. So she wanted me to be able to do that. So I did a double major. I got a business degree to make my grandfather happy. At graduation, he was like, "Wait, what?" And I had sneakily gone and done design. And he said, "You've got 1 year to prove yourself." And they gave me a little bit of seed money to start. I opened up a design office because I was 21. And he said, "After a year, if you haven't made a profit, you have to come home." Well, within that first year, I was published nationally. I'm the youngest person to have ever been in Architectural Digest at 21. And I took the magazine photos because they hadn't been published yet, and the letter from the editor, and said, "Looks like I'm going to be a designer." We would have to drive to Tulsa to go get marble, and we would have to go to Dallas to source because there were no resources. Your mind was your resource, and finding artisans and craftsmen and people. I spent most of my time in a car driving out in the middle of the woods trying to find woodworkers and cabinet makers and people that could create these things I was imagining. So I look back and I see somebody who was fearless and not afraid. I could tell as my career evolved, like in my 30s and 40s, as more things were accessible, I kind of got a little soft because everything was available and I didn't push myself as hard. So at this phase of my career, I'm pushing myself again. The biggest thing for that was being able to reignite my fire for design, because my adrenaline kicked in that first day and it was fight or flight. And I decided to stay and fight because I was like, "Oh my God, I have to hammer, nail, paint, do. And oh my God, I'm in a competition, and everybody's 30 years younger than me." It was just the most out of body experience. And it, again, probably one of the reasons I'm so passionate again about design is because when you get back to the basics, paint, color, build, do, create, that's why we do this. And I would advise it to anybody at any level of design, because if you're not pushing yourself, you're not learning and you're not growing. I mean, I came back a totally different person after that. It was the old me. I was like, "Oh, there's that young kid that wasn't afraid." I think the biggest insult for a designer is for someone to come in and go, "Oh, this room looks like so-and-so did it." When you come into a space, it should look like, "Oh, Jane, this looks just like you." It shouldn't look like a designer was ever there. I think as people, we tend to be sheep and we follow a trend, or we get caught up in something because Tammy down the street has it. And I'm trying to teach people that we don't care what Tammy has, we care what you have and what reflects you as a person. Everybody always asks me about my bee, and I've had it for 35 years. And people think, "Oh, it's a Napoleonic bee. Oh, it's a Gucci bee." No, the bee to me symbolized when I started, the bee against all odds, its body's bigger than its wings, shouldn't be able to fly, but against all odds, it flies. So I picked the bee because when I started, I was that bee. Everybody said I couldn't make it, but I knew I could. So like that bee with all that strong will, I believed I could fly. The best thing about a beautiful room is it starts a conversation. So that's what I tell my clients. I'm like, "What's something that's special to you? And let's center the room around that." So when someone comes in, when we go to people's houses, it's always awkward at first. So you always want a conversation starter, whether it be a family object or something new or some crazy fabric or something you found on a trip. But it eases people up when there's something they're comfortable talking about. So, great rooms start conversations. And I always like to help my client find that one piece. Most of them are looking for something different than anybody else has, and they want color and pattern and storytelling and collections, and they want to learn. I'm big on taking my clients on a learning journey because the more they know, the better their rooms are. So I always take my clients on big buying trips. I've taken them when the world was open. We would go to Europe and go on buying trips. We go to Italy, go to marble quarries so they can go select their marble. I try and get my clients involved as possible, or as involved as they want to be, because again, it helps with the storytelling of their home. They can be like, oh, I was on this trip and we found this, or so they're looking for an experience when they come to me. Plus they know I have a lot of personality, as you can tell, and they expect it to be fun, because I always tell people we're not curing cancer, we're making rooms beautiful. So this should be a fun process. It should be a great experience. And yes, there are going to be bad days and things are going to be wrong and stressful. But at the end of the day, we're trying to make something beautiful. And the end result is a whole process of fun experiences for our clients. And I always tell them, hey, some days you're going to hate me and be mad at me. But at the end, I want you to be really happy, because you're going to forget all the bad stuff that took to create this. We do everything for our clients because it makes their life easier. Plus, the control freak in me loves that, because if my client's having a party and the florist shows up that doesn't know what the heck, they can ruin the whole vibe of a party. Or if the holiday decor doesn't go, you have to kind of maintain some kind of control over the whole look or the experience, or our clients are like, wait, what happened? The room isn't pretty anymore. I always say, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. So you've got to kind of put yourself out there and not be afraid to fail or succeed. And when I was young, I wasn't afraid of any of that. And then when you start getting successful in recognition and having payroll and employees, you kind of get in a safe zone. And at this point in my career, I'm like, let's get back on the edge, because that's where the magic happens.